Welcome to our channel, where we bring you stories that delve into the depths of human experience. Stories of love, betrayal, resilience, and redemption. Today we present a tale that will shock, move, and inspire you. It's a story of a marriage that seemed perfect on the surface, but hid a dark secret that would unravel in the most unexpected way. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button if you're ready to embark on this emotional journey with us. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to light. Now let's dive into the story of Margaret and Harold, a story that will leave you questioning the very nature of trust and love. Margaret and Harold had been married for 35 years, and to the outside world, they were the couple everyone admired. They lived in a charming house in a quiet Chicago suburb, where the streets were lined with trees and the neighbors knew each other by name. Their home was a beautiful two-story house with a manicured lawn, a white picket fence, and a porch swing that creaked gently in the breeze. Harold, a retired accountant, was known for his quiet charm and his unwavering devotion to Margaret. He was the kind of man who remembered birthdays and anniversaries, who mowed the lawn every weekend, and who always had a kind word for everyone he met. He was well respected in the community, known for his integrity and his dedication to his family. Margaret, a former schoolteacher, was the heart of their home. Her warmth and kindness were evident in every room of the house, and she was beloved by her family and friends. She was the kind of woman who baked cookies for the neighbors, who volunteered at the local library, and who always had a listening ear for anyone in need. Her laughter was infectious, and her presence brought joy to everyone around her. Their children, Emily and James, had grown up in this loving environment and had moved out to start their own families, but they visited often, bringing their own children to fill the house with laughter and joy. The house was always filled with the aroma of Margaret's cooking, the sound of laughter, and the warmth of family gatherings. To their friends and neighbors, Margaret and Harold's life seemed idyllic. They hosted dinner parties, attended church every Sunday, and were active in the community. Their home was a place where everyone felt welcome, and their marriage appeared to be a testament to the power of love and commitment. But beneath this perfect facade, a different reality was unfolding, one that would soon shatter the illusion of their seemingly perfect life. Margaret often found herself reflecting on the years she had spent with Harold. She remembered the early days of their marriage, when they were young and in love, and the world seemed full of possibilities. They had built a life together, a life that was filled with shared memories and dreams. But as the years went by, Margaret began to notice subtle changes in Harold's behavior. He became more controlling, more demanding, and she often felt like she was walking on eggshells around him. Despite these changes, Margaret tried to convince herself that everything was fine. She told herself that all marriages had their ups and downs, and that she and Harold would work through their issues. But deep down, she knew that something was wrong, something that she couldn't quite put her finger on. Margaret had always been a light sleeper, but lately, she had been waking up feeling more tired than usual. She would often find herself lying in bed, trying to shake off a grogginess that seemed to linger long after she had woken up. Her body ached in strange places, and she would sometimes find bruises on her arms and legs that she couldn't explain. She chalked it up to the natural wear and tear of aging, but a small voice in the back of her mind whispered that something wasn't right. One morning, as she sat at the kitchen table sipping her morning tea, she noticed a strange taste that she hadn't noticed before. It was subtle, but it was enough to make her pause. She looked at Harold, who was reading the newspaper, and wondered if he had changed the brand of tea. But she didn't ask, dismissing it as a figment of her imagination. As the days went by, Margaret began to notice other small things. A faint scent of cologne that wasn't Harold's, a missing bottle of her sleeping pills, a feeling of unease that she couldn't quite shake. She tried to ignore these signs, telling herself that she was being paranoid, but the feeling that something was wrong continued to grow. Margaret's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. She tried to rationalize the strange occurrences, but the more she tried, the more confused she became. She began to feel like she was losing her grip on reality, and she didn't know who to turn to for help. Harold had always been a man of routine, but lately, he had been acting differently. He was more secretive, more withdrawn, and he often disappeared into his study for hours at a time. Margaret would sometimes hear him talking on the phone in hushed tones, but when she asked him about it, he would brush her off, saying it was work-related. One evening, as she was cleaning up after dinner, she noticed a receipt sticking out of Harold's coat pocket. It was for a hotel room, and the date was from the previous week. Her heart skipped a beat as she realized that Harold had been lying to her. She confronted him, but he quickly dismissed it, saying it was a business meeting that had run late. Margaret wanted to believe him, but the seed of doubt had been planted. She began to look for more clues, and soon she discovered that Harold had been visiting online forums and chat rooms. The content of these forums made her stomach turn, and she realized that Harold was leading a double life, one that was filled with secrets and lies. Margaret's heart pounded in her chest as she tried to process the information. She felt a sense of betrayal and confusion, wondering how she could have been so blind. She spent hours poring over the forums, trying to understand what Harold was involved in. The more she read, the more her heart sank. She realized that Harold was not the man she thought he was, and that their marriage was built on a foundation of deceit. As Margaret delved deeper into Harold's secret life, she discovered a world that was more sinister than she could have imagined. Harold had been frequenting online forums where men shared their darkest fantasies, and he had been inviting strangers into their home. These men would come over when Margaret was asleep, and Harold would film them as they took advantage of her vulnerability. The realization hit Margaret like a ton of bricks. The strange taste in her tea, the missing pills, the bruises on her body, it all made sense now. Harold had been drugging her and allowing these men to violate her while she was unconscious. The man she had loved and trusted had betrayed her in the most unimaginable way. One evening, as Margaret was sitting in the living room, she heard a noise coming from the hallway. She got up to investigate and found Harold standing at the door, talking to a man she didn't recognize. Her heart pounded in her chest as she realized that this was one of the men from the forums. She watched in horror as Harold let the man into the house and led him towards the bedroom. The investigation into Harold's activities was swift and thorough. The police found evidence of his involvement in the online forums and the illegal activities that had taken place in their home. Margaret was interviewed extensively, and she provided the police with all the information she had. The evidence was overwhelming, and Harold was charged with multiple counts of drugging, sexual assault, and exploitation. The fallout from Harold's betrayal was devastating. Margaret's life was thrown into chaos, and she struggled to come to terms with the betrayal. The violation of her body and her trust was a wound that ran deep, and she struggled with feelings of guilt and shame, even though she was the victim. The news of Harold's arrest spread quickly, and the community was shocked. Friends and neighbors were stunned by the revelations, and many struggled to reconcile the man they thought they knew with the monster he had become. Therapy became a crucial part of Margaret's healing process. She began seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma and abuse, someone who could help her navigate the complex emotions she was experiencing. In the quiet, safe space of the therapist's office, Margaret began to unravel the layers of pain and betrayal that had been inflicted upon her. The therapist helped Margaret understand that the feelings of guilt and shame she was experiencing were common among survivors of abuse. They worked together to reframe her narrative, to help her understand that she was not at fault, and that she deserved to heal and find peace. As Margaret continued to heal, she began to find her voice. She started speaking out about her experience, hoping to raise awareness about the issue of abuse, and to help others who might be going through the same thing. She shared her story with close friends and family, and then with larger audiences, hoping to break the silence surrounding the issue. The intimacy of her story was a powerful tool in her advocacy work. She spoke about the importance of understanding the complexities of intimacy and the impact that abuse can have on a person's sense of self. Her story was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, and it showed that even in the face of the deepest circumstances, there is hope for healing and renewal. Forgiveness was a difficult concept for Margaret to grasp. She struggled with the idea of forgiving Harold for what he had done, wondering if it meant that she was condoning his actions. She wrestled with feelings of anger and resentment, wondering how she could ever forgive the man who had caused her so much pain. The therapist helped Margaret to understand that forgiveness was not about condoning Harold's actions or letting him off the hook. It was about freeing herself from the burden of anger and resentment that was holding her back. The intimacy of the betrayal made forgiveness a complex and challenging process, but Margaret began to work on forgiving herself first, recognizing that she was not to blame for what had happened. With the support of her family and friends, Margaret began to rebuild her life. She decided to move to a new city, where she could start fresh and leave the past behind. She found a cozy apartment in a vibrant neighborhood, where she could walk to the park, visit local cafes, and enjoy the vibrant culture of the city. The intimacy of her new life was a source of strength for Margaret. She found joy in the simple things like taking long walks in the park, reading books, and spending time with her family and friends. She found that she was able to find joy in the present moment, and she was grateful for the small moments of joy that she found each day. The concept of intimacy had been forever altered for Margaret after the trauma she had experienced. The once comforting and loving act of intimacy had been perverted and used as a weapon against her. She struggled with the idea of intimacy, both physical and emotional, and she found herself avoiding situations that might lead to intimacy. But as she continued to heal, Margaret began to reclaim her sense of intimacy on her own terms. She learned to trust herself and her instincts, and she learned to set boundaries that made her feel safe. Acceptance was a difficult journey for Margaret. She struggled with the idea of accepting what had happened to her, and she struggled with the idea of accepting the fact that she might never fully recover from the trauma. Margaret's journey was one of resilience. She had faced unimaginable trauma, but she had also found the strength to survive and to thrive. She had learned to find joy in the present moment, and she had learned to appreciate the small things in life. Love was a powerful force in Margaret's life. It was the love of her family and friends that had helped her to survive the trauma she had experienced. It was the love of her children and her friends that had given her the strength to move forward. The journey of healing was a long and difficult one for Margaret. It was a journey that required patience, courage, and a willingness to confront the past. But it was also a journey that was filled with hope and possibility. Hope was a powerful force in Margaret's life. It was the hope of a better future that had kept her going during the darkest moments of her life. It was the hope of a better future that had given her the strength to keep going. Forgiveness was a powerful tool in Margaret's healing process. She learned to forgive Harold, not because he deserved it, but because it freed her from the burden of anger and resentment. Self-love was a crucial part of Margaret's healing process. She learned to love herself, to accept herself, and to value herself. The journey of moving forward was a long and difficult one for Margaret. But it was also a journey that was filled with hope and possibility. Margaret found strength in the community of survivors she had become a part of. They supported each other, shared their stories, and worked together to create change. The turning point in Margaret's journey came when she realized that she had the power to make a difference. She no longer felt like a victim, but a survivor with a voice. With her newfound empowerment, Margaret continued to advocate for survivors of abuse. She worked tirelessly to raise awareness and push for change. The ripple effect of Margaret's work was felt in communities across the country. Her story inspired others to take action, and it helped to create a movement for change. Margaret's legacy was one of courage and resilience. She had turned her pain into power, and she had used her experience to help others. Margaret's journey was also one of love. She found love and support in her family, friends, and the community of survivors she had become a part of. Love was a powerful force in Margaret's life. It gave her the strength to keep going and the courage to speak out. Margaret's journey was a new chapter in her life, one that was filled with love, hope, and possibility. The ripple effect of Margaret's journey was felt in the lives of those around her. Her story inspired others to find their own paths to healing and empowerment. Margaret's legacy was one of transformation. She had transformed her pain into power, and she had used her experience to help others. Margaret's journey was a journey of a lifetime, one that had transformed her and those around her. It was a journey that had given her a new perspective on life, a journey that had taught her the true meaning of resilience and strength. She had faced unimaginable challenges, but she had also discovered a wellspring of inner strength that she never knew she possessed. The journey had been long and arduous, filled with moments of despair and moments of hope. But through it all, Margaret had learned to hold on to hope, to believe in the possibility of a better tomorrow. The journey had begun with a single step, a decision to seek help and to confront the darkness that had taken hold of her life. It had been a decision born out of desperation, but it had been the first step towards healing and redemption. Margaret had taken that first step and she had never looked back. She had faced her fears, confronted her demons, and slowly, she had begun to reclaim her life. The journey had been fraught with challenges, but it had also been filled with moments of profound transformation. She had learned to forgive not just Harold but also herself. She had learned to let go of the past, to let go of the pain and the anger that had held her captive for so long. She had learned to embrace the present, to find joy in the small moments of life. She had learned to love herself, to value herself, and to believe that she deserved to be happy. The journey had been one of self-discovery, of learning to accept herself for who she was. She had found a new sense of purpose, a new reason to get up in the morning. She had found a new passion in helping others, in using her experience to make a difference in the world. She had become an advocate for survivors of abuse, using her voice to raise awareness and to push for change. She had found a new community, a community of survivors who understood her journey and who supported her every step of the way. The journey had been one of connection, of finding her place in the world. She had found love, not just in the romantic sense, but in the love of her family and friends, in the love of the community she had become a part of. She had found love in the support of her children, in the unconditional love they had shown her throughout her journey. She had found love in the kindness of strangers, in the support she had received from people she had never met. The journey had been one of love, of discovering the power of love to heal and to transform. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had also been a journey of hope and possibility. It had been a journey that had taught her that no matter how dark things might seem, there is always hope for a better tomorrow. It had been a journey that had taught her that she was stronger than she ever imagined, that she had the strength to overcome any obstacle. It had been a journey that had taught her that she was worthy of love and happiness, that she deserved to live a life filled with joy and fulfillment. The journey had been filled with moments of doubt and fear, but it had also been filled with moments of courage and determination. Margaret had learned to trust herself, to trust her instincts, and to trust in the goodness of others. She had learned to be patient with herself, to be kind to herself, and to be gentle with herself. She had learned to embrace her imperfections, to embrace her flaws, and to embrace her humanity. The journey had been a journey of growth, of learning and of becoming. It had been a journey that had changed her in ways she never thought possible. It had been a journey that had taught her the true meaning of courage, of strength, and of resilience. It had taught her that she was capable of more than she ever imagined. It had taught her that she was worthy of love, of happiness, and of a life filled with joy and fulfillment. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to support our mission of bringing important stories to light. Until next time, stay strong, stay brave, and keep fighting for a better world. As the years went by, Margaret's story continued to inspire people around the world. She became a symbol of hope and resilience, and her advocacy work had a lasting impact on the lives of countless individuals.